President Wilson has done a really good job of laying out the core priorities and the core values that we will be following when we reopen in the fall. First of all, he's indicated that his priority is safety first, to ensure the safety of students, faculty, and staff. And so many of our procedures and policies, such as I referenced earlier, are designed to protect and ensure the safety and the health of our students, faculty, and staff. The second is to continue to support the core academic mission of the university. And for us in this college and for students in the music program, that's to ensure the highest quality educational experience for you that we possibly can. So we are committed, and the faculty are certainly committed to continuing to ensure that you have an excellent experience in your courses. The third principle that President Wilson talked about was the importance of learning and being flexible, to understand what's working and maybe what's not working, to adjust as things go forward. And that learning process and that adjustment process means that even though we may not have all the answers now, we are working toward getting those answers, and we can assure you that those answers will be in place before the fall. Many of our courses in the fall will be hybrid courses. When courses can be remote appropriately, they will be remote. We will be limiting class sizes to reduce the density of courses. We are putting courses in larger places to ensure that the 6-foot minimum distance can be maintained. We actually have people from facilities going around and measuring the individual rooms, determining the square footage, and determining how many students can be in those spaces safely and maintain the 6-foot minimum distance. Now, maintaining that distance is more difficult, as I indicated, with some of the performance classes, some of the singing courses, for example, or the dance courses. We will have to be very vigilant in maintaining that 6-foot distance what the CDC recommends. We believe that 6-foot distance is appropriate, and we will work to ensure that the facilities can accommodate that 6-foot distance. We're following CDC guidelines, we're following guidelines from other professional associations and best practices to make sure that the social distancing is appropriate. As Professor Duncan indicated, the university is headed by an epidemiologist. We have a medical school. We have really great expertise to be able to manage these particular challenges. And among those expertise are just a world-class faculty. I'm really proud of the faculty throughout the college, certainly within the Department of Music, for stepping up to ensure that we're able to do what's necessary to bring you your classes in the fall. And I want to especially thank Dr. Duncan and the faculty and staff in the Department of Music. So we look forward to welcoming you back to your classes in the fall. We have lots of opportunities to answer your questions and to hear from the leaders of the various academic areas, to talk to you more specifically about the policies and procedures that we're putting in place. I will put my email address in the chat, and if you have specific questions that you would like to send me after this particular session, I would be happy to try to respond to them. Again, we don't yet have all the answers, but we're committed to your health and safety. We're committed to the core academic mission of the university, and we're committed to learning and innovating to ensure that the semester is successful. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Seeger. Now let's turn our attention to some of the academic areas. First of all, we'd like to hear from Dr. Braunschweig about music theory this fall. Dr. Braunschweig?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hello, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Duncan. Thank you, Dean Seeger, for your remarks. It is a truly extraordinary situation we're in, and in line with safety first and the pedagogical aims of the theory division, the faculty who are teaching theory have decided to run all of the theory classes scheduled for the fall in a remote fashion. This will be a combination of synchronous meetings when class is normally scheduled and some asynchronous modes of interaction with other students and with the professor. I think given our textbook choices and what we have to accomplish in terms of concepts and skills for those particular courses in the fall, I think we'll be in good shape. So I'm happy to say that I think there are no serious challenges to what we'll be doing in the theory area. I'll say, just for anyone who's curious about more details, we'll be using a combination of short videos targeting specific aspects of tonal harmony and part writing. We'll be doing some online quizzes, many provided by the Norton textbooks, which have been peer reviewed by our colleagues nationwide and are at a very high level of quality. And there'll be plenty of opportunities for interactions with other students and with the faculty members, so that if there are any questions about how to solve certain problems in the homework assignments or how to approach certain new concepts or skills, there'll be plenty of chances to answer those questions. So it's not going to be everyone on their own by any means. I think we'll all be working very, very closely together in those courses. And I'm specifically thinking of Theory 1, Theory 3, Ear Training 1, Ear Training 3, and Tech. I think those are the largest courses that we'll be running in the fall. There'll be a few others, counterpoint, orchestration. I hope I'm not missing any. I apologize if I am. But I think that's the general scope of what we're looking at. Once again, everything in a remote fashion, using Canvas and the Norton textbook platforms. Lots of opportunities to interact with faculty and with other students in achieving what we're supposed to be doing in those courses. So I'd be happy to answer any specific questions about the courses I mentioned later in the Q&A session. But I think that's it for now.
Thank you, Professor Braunschweig. Now let's turn to music history with Dr. Joshua Duchan.
Thank you, Dr. Duncan. The history situation is quite similar, actually, to the situation in music theory, in that all the history courses will have remote instruction in different forms. So some of them will be asynchronous and some of them will be synchronous, where there'll be class meetings at particular times when the classes would have been scheduled in the classroom. A lot of times it'll be using Canvas, some resources provided by the textbook publishers, which, like theory, have also been vetted by our history colleagues nationwide. I can tell you that in advance of tonight's meeting, I polled the music history professors, and all of them got back to me saying how enthusiastic and excited they are to get back to work, to get back to discussing music history with the students, with everybody involved, even if it's a new normal, which we know it will be. So I think that there's a lot of enthusiasm. There's a lot of planning happening right now for opportunities, like Professor Braunschweig mentioned, opportunities for interaction between students and faculty, lots of different ways for students to get help and get questions answered. And I expect that more details will be available the closer we get to the semester. But that's it for music history. Now back to you, Professor Duncan.
Thank you, Professor Duchan. Now, Professor Miller, the applied lessons in jazz studies.
Well, this would be all applied lessons, I'm sure. The one advantage we've had is that all private lessons were remotely at the end of last semester. I did a survey of all the applied faculty to see what the results were, how it went for them, their challenges, their successes. And what we found out is that everybody was quite positive with it. They were willing to work around all the problems. It was never ideal, and I don't suppose it ever will be. But my suspicion for the fall, and what we're leaning towards, is mostly online remote learning for the private lessons. would it be possible for a student and a teacher to meet on campus for an in-person lesson? I believe it would. It would have to be in a larger room with enough space between. There would have to be an opportunity to clean the facility between students if possible. So that's the way I think this is going to go for the fall regarding private lessons. And that leads to the next question, which would be, how are we going to handle juries? And I think that conversation is still going to occur. One of my thoughts on this, and this is not official policy yet, is that juries could occur provided we can follow all the guidelines and all the procedures laid out by the university. So if we can have enough space between a performer and an accompanist and between the jury panel, or we might limit the jury panel to 1 or 2 people, it could be possible to do juries. The other issue that comes up is recitals. And we need to have another conversation amongst the faculty and staff regarding how we're going to approach this. So we haven't really come to a full, clear conclusion on that, although there are a number of students who have put off the recitals from last winter to this fall. And we most certainly want to see everybody who has to do a recital achieve their goal, get the recital done, and to continue to move on with their education. And same thing, if anybody has questions regarding lessons, we'll be happy to answer them in the group session at the end. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Professor Miller. I'll just take a couple of minutes to talk about the ensembles. We have been working with the Director of Planning Space Management of Facilities Planning Management and her team to ensure that we provide safe rehearsal spaces for all of our students and faculty. And this includes following some of the CDC guidelines that Dr. Seeger referenced earlier in his comments, which includes physical distancing. Ensemble directors and I actually will have a meeting tomorrow morning with FP&M, as it's called, to go through our various spaces. In addition to that, we're also aware of reputable studies that have been forthcoming from various places from around the world, in particular the Freiburg University risk assessment of the coronavirus infection in the field of music. In addition to that study, which is reputable according to FP&M, we've looked at directives from the American Choral Directors Association and its response to COVID-19. There are several things that this organization is doing, webinars. There's even a special meeting tomorrow afternoon with the Michigan ACDA chapter. To go back to the facilities planning and management, the Facilities Restart Committee is finalizing a playbook that will address, among other things, how we will be managing custodial activities on campus and levels of responsibilities for cleaning the facilities. So they're looking at specific tools and options for rooms such as used by theater and dance, as well as ourselves as music, because we have very unique circumstances. And it is their hope that by the end of this week, they will finalize this playbook and it will be posted on the WSU coronavirus website. So I look forward to seeing that. In a nutshell, what will definitely make our ensembles move along smoothly are the use of masks, appropriate ventilation, which we're looking into, the limited rehearsal times, probably shorter rehearsal times, washing of hands frequently, and definitely a smaller ensemble and social distancing. So that's all I have to say now about ensembles. And as we get towards the question and answer period at the end, I'll be able to have a few other things to say as I respond to some of your questions. So let's now move on to Dr. Anderson and music composition.
Sure, thank you. For composition, we're pretty much going to kind of follow a procedure we did last year, which was hold everything synchronously, remotely, of course. We have really every week, for those of you that haven't taken composition before, a little shameless plug here. If you're looking for some creative outlet in your own work, our beginning composition course is actually really quite perfect for this kind of situation. We're going to be writing music for each other, and it works actually really quite well over remote instructions. So If you're interested, feel free to contact me about the course, because that's open to anybody studying. And if you need an elective and you thought about maybe writing some music, getting some tools in your belt in terms of how to kind of go about doing that with a little bit more of a guided process, this is a real kind of cool opportunity for that. For those of you that are doing lessons, particularly with your instructor, those will still be once a week, held on Zoom or Teams, whichever your professor is going to be using. So we'll still be meeting as a group every week. Anyone enrolled in composition, we're still going to do our seminars. This is just a kind of a time for us to talk about anything composition related, and so many things actually are happening right now in kind of some interesting virtual spaces and so forth. So we'll continue just to meet as is, as scheduled, remotely and synchronously. It will, for those of you that are going to be writing for multiple instruments, that's always something that we're going to be kind of looking here towards, in terms of how can people meet, do they need to meet, etc. So TBA, a little bit on the kind of concert side of things in that kind of space, but I think we'll figure something out pretty quickly. Yeah, we're here to help you out making your Zoom lessons work. I know it's a lot about trying to figure out how to get a notation program to accurately send audio back and forth between you and the professor. So we're going to do a lot of just strategizing and just making sure that your experience with your teacher is as good as it can be, and for it to be a kind of an essential, creative, and inspiring kind of process. So that's where we stand on the composition side of things.
Thank you, Professor Anderson. And now a few words about music education from Dr. Butler.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to seeing all of you again in the fall. I'm going to go over the courses that are offered in the fall and let you know what the plans are for them. So the MED 3500 Intro to Music Education will be offered as an online course with a mix of synchronous and asynchronous online instruction. We will probably not be meeting face-to-face for that particular course, but we will be doing so. We will have some synchronous meetings during the time that the class is scheduled. For MED 4510, Vocal Music in the Schools 1, and MED 4540, Instrumental Music in the Schools 1. Those are going to be offered as hybrid courses with some face-to-face time, and then a mix of synchronous and asynchronous online instruction. Now, for those two courses, typically they involve field work in the schools or bringing students into the music department to work with you. Our plans at this point are to continue with that field work, offering that, possibly with modifications. You might be asked to teach some online lessons or develop some online lessons or instruction. That decision will really depend on approval from public schools and what they decide to do. So right now we're planning to go ahead with that field work. Final decisions about that won't be made until we know for sure what school districts are doing. I can tell you at this point in time that all of the mentor teachers that I work with for student teaching, pre-student teaching, their districts are currently having committee meetings and lots of planning to try and figure out how they're going to get their schools back up and running. And it looks like a lot of it will probably be a mix of both face-to-face instruction as well as some online instruction. For students in pre-student teaching and student teaching, MED 4560 and MED 4570, again, our plans are to proceed with pre-student teaching, student teaching, based on the assumption that schools will be in session in some form starting this fall. In all likelihood, from what I'm hearing on the ground, internships will include a mix of face-to-face teaching as well as some online instruction, which in many respects is great training and great opportunity for you to develop learning how to teach online and teach music online. In regular contact with the College of Education, and just want you to know that we will follow whatever protocols are set by individual school districts as well as the College of Education. If for any reason these schools are closed or go back to completely online instruction, we can't really do anything or know how we're going to respond until the State Department of Education chimes in and lets us know what they will do. So at this point, we're planning to move ahead, as I said, with some kind of a mix of online and face-to-face instruction. In-school observations of interns will depend on district policies. So it may not be possible. Districts may not want your supervisor to come in and observe you teach, but we'll have an opportunity to videotape that and watch your teaching online, talk about that, and so forth. So I think that using Zoom or videotape lessons, that will be our backup plan for that. Bi-weekly seminars will also be conducted online for student teachers, pre-student teachers, and will provide additional online support for you on an individual basis as you need it. I have just really three words, or well, really 6 words to say to you at this point. And that is, please be patient, be flexible, and be kind. Everybody is working really, really hard to provide you with the best educational opportunities that you have. And we have been receiving messages from the college at large and the university at large to do those things, to think about those things when we're thinking about you. And we hope that you will reciprocate with your faculty. We really care about you and want to make sure you get the best. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Butler. Now on to music technology with Dr. Joo Won Park.
Hi, so I'm gonna talk about MUA 25 first, 2500, music technology, which is the requirement course for most of you. It's going to be remote online. We are also working with the IT department to address the issue with the software. So most of the tech class, what we are going to do is, in terms of software, you guys gonna be able to log into our lab computer remotely from your home. There's this program called Splashtop, which you can do that. So for 2500, it will be remote, but you will have all the software access that you usually get from the lab. Now the bigger question for music tech is the access to our world-class facility in the labs and the recording studio. We are still working on it. We are trying to find the ways for the students to come into the lab safely. Most of the tech class will be online or hybrid, but we are working our best to make sure that students have access to the recording studio, students have access to the lab, so that you get the best learning experience. It may be like assigned lab time so that you have minimum contact with other students. You will have like, I don't know, like you by yourself in a lab or recording studio to work on it, work on yourself. But we gotta make sure that we follow the CDC guidelines and social distancing. But my goal is to have you music tech majors and for those who are taking music tech classes have a facility, that the hardware that we value and that you will learn a lot. For electronic ensembles, we're gonna follow the guidelines from the university too, but we can do social distancing. You just have to turn up the volume a little bit more, and also you can play with the mask on. So electronic ensemble, I hope we can run it first face-to-face, but then every other classes will be online, hybrid, with the emphasis that we will have some kind of procedure to have you have access to both hardware and software. That's it.
Thank you, Professor Park. And now Professor Peters from music business.
Hi, everyone. So essentially all the classes for music business are planned to be offered in a synchronous remote manner. We will be recording those lectures for those who are not able to attend in time, but I'm planning to use a series of videos, short written responses, simulations, and case studies like previously in all of the courses that we're going to be offering. And those have been vetted by business faculty and faculty across the nation in the music and entertainment Industry Educators Association. And we'll be moving forward with those. As you can see if you read Billboard Pro or Music Business Worldwide, the music industry has been sort of thrown for a loop and dealing with these things. It'll actually provide an interesting area for us to have some discussions around how do you deal with copyright, how do you deal with strategy going forwards. In terms of internships, those will be as arranged, and planning to do that in a manner that is public safety and public health minded, and that is following the rules of the university. There are currently students who are doing online internships, and so I would suggest if you are considering a need to do an internship in the fall, to get in touch with me now so we can start figuring out where those placements might be. And I'm happy to open my email in the chat, but I'm happy to have those conversations.
Thank you very much, Professor Peters. And now Mr. Paul Bishop will talk with you, rather all of us, about what's going on in our facilities.
Hello, everyone. Right now, Old Main is locked, and the building engineer is in, the custodians are in, they're disinfecting the building and cleaning. Skilled trades are in, working on their projects. So all of that stuff has resumed since the stay-at-home order is lifted. Additionally, if you have a Wayne State instrument, if you have a locker that you need to clean out or sheet music that you would like to turn in, I've been arranging appointments. We can do curbside pickups or drop-offs. And so if you can get in contact with me, I've been trying to reach out to a lot of you that have instruments and music. There's a small group of CFPCA staff mixed with fine arts support that has been meeting since this whole thing broke out. And they've been working on a lot of strategic solutions, one of which Dr. Park mentioned, which is the virtual lab, and MUA 2500 is using that now for the spring-summer class. And that includes access to Splashtop, which then we're setting up virtual labs. So it's a room with computers with our software that you would have access to remote into. Additionally, we've been in the building now calculating social distancing based on CDC guidelines. Now, if you remember back to math class, that equation area for a circle is pi times radius squared. And if everybody has 6 feet apart, the CDC recommends that every person would have 113 square feet. And that's kind of a very conservative estimate. So that's how we're figuring out the social distancing right now. We are, as Dr. Duncan mentioned, meeting with facilities planning and management and our ensemble directors to look at the spaces to see what is feasible. Additionally, there's a lot of great resources on the National Association for Music Educators and the National Association for Music Merchants on things like cleaning and disinfecting your instruments. They talk about things on like how long does a virus live on brass, cork, wood, keyboards, etc., and proper protocol for cleaning your various instruments. So I would encourage you to look at some of those things. And additionally, as the Dean and Dr. Duncan had mentioned, there is a facility subcommittee charged by the university to look at protocol for things like how many people should be in an elevator at a time. How are we going to navigate traffic in the hallways? So those things are all in the works right now. And one of the questions that's come up a few times now is, will we have access to instruments in the fall? And the answer is, if you're in the ensemble and you need the instrument, or you're in the method class and you need the instrument, we will make them available. And furthermore, we are doing a lot of exploration in terms of resources that we can help you with, you know, so that you can do your coursework, so that you can practice, so that you can teach. An additional note to the faculty, Gary Sandrowski with Fine Arts Support has offered the opportunity to come into Old Main over the summer to film some of your lectures. So if you would like to film a lecture in a classroom with a whiteboard and a piano, you can do that. So please contact Gary and he can set that up with you. We would probably do them in 1345 or perhaps one of the other first floor classrooms. So that's the gist of what I have to say right now. And we're just still exploring a lot of these questions, finding solutions. So if you have any questions for me, you can write to me and I'll do the best that I can to find an answer.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. But now we're going to turn our attention to some of the questions you submitted. So I've asked Mrs. DeAnna Johnson, our academic advisor, to moderate this part of the presentation.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So I'm just kind of sifting through the questions that you guys submitted online. If by any chance I miss a question and you want to re-ask it, go ahead and type it in the chat. So one question is, let's see here. Is it likely that we will have access to practice rooms or study areas in Old Main in the fall?
I wrote to Ashley Flintoff, who is the space manager for the university, with this exact question. And she told me if students regularly had access to practice rooms and lockers before this whole thing broke out, that should not change for the fall. In terms of protocol for how this is going to work, in terms of disinfecting it, those are still questions we're working on. But as of right now, according to FPNM, that will not change.
Okay. Another question, it's an ensemble question. Is there a plan set in place for marching band?
I should turn this over to Dr. Seeger to answer.
Thank you very much. I have asked this very question of our sports program, our athletic director. And as of now, the plan is to have a sports program in the fall, to have a football program. And so my expectation is that we would have a marching band. People will be marching 6 feet apart, which I think is probably not too difficult. And probably many of you already stay 6 feet apart. Practices would probably be somewhat limited given other issues. But as of now, as with the other ensembles, we would follow CDC guidelines. But as I understand it, there is a plan to have a sports program in the fall, and therefore we would have a marching band, because you really don't have a sports program unless you have a marching band. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next one is there an option for students not to come to campus, like if they are feeling vulnerable or if they have a vulnerable condition?
This is a difficult question. Our formats have been pretty much established in terms of how the courses are going to be taught. And in some cases, it definitely is possible for a student to pursue their studies by staying away from campus. We have most of our courses, actually about 65–70%, are going to be remote synchronous, if not asynchronous. So the plan is to actually get feedback from the faculty by tomorrow in terms of what we believe to be what the courses are going to look like. And then by as early as next Monday, Mrs. DeAnna Johnson will have, the course and the plans for how the course will be delivered. And this information will be also turned over to our registrar.
I would just add to that, is again, Professor Wilson has indicated that our first priority is the health and safety of students. So we are really putting in place procedures and policies and practices to reduce the risk of exposure and contracting COVID-19 as much as humanly possible. So the risk is really going to be minimal. The social distancing procedures, the cleaning procedures, and the reduction in density of students in classroom is really going to significantly mitigate the risk of contracting this disease. Some of you may have seen that Michigan is really doing an excellent job, the state of Michigan, in managing this disease. And we're hopeful and we are optimistic that we will be able to put in place procedures that do follow that first principle Professor Wilson outlined, which is the health and safety of students, faculty, and staff.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is about performances. How will performance requirements for classes be fulfilled?
Professor Miller asked her this question. Russ Miller?
Russ, you're on mute.
Yep, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
It depends on the performance ensemble itself. If it's a small chamber group, it's conceivable that there would be performances in the recital hall, although the audience might be restricted in size. If it's a large ensemble, and I don't know how large that would be, but we're talking, depends on how Professor Bianchi would want to treat the wind ensemble or the concert band, or how the concert chorale might be treated. Some of those performances may be recorded and then assembled via editing and mixing and things like that. I can speak to the jazz band specifically, that I'm planning on, with the ability to have limited contact, being able to rehearse sections individually, and then near the end of the semester, start combining them in a recording studio. So we will perform the music in as large of a group as we can safely put together, and then through mixing and mastering and editing, we'll put together a concert performance that will be shown, and that's how that would be taken care of. If it's a small chamber ensemble, it's likely that if it's a string quartet or something, that they could do a performance 6 feet apart on the stage, and we could have a limited audience. So I think it's going to vary depending on the ensemble. I know all the ensemble directors have been talking about this a lot and thinking about this a lot. And we've been looking at what are others around the country doing. And so there's a lot of ideas floating around out there. There's lots of possibilities, and those things are all continuing to be developed as we speak.
Okay. The next one is, will the music department be adhering to the National Association of Teachers of Singing recommendations not to sing until there is a vaccine or 95% effective treatment of COVID-19?
I think this is a response to a webinar that was co-sponsored by NATS and ACDA. As I mentioned in my opening comments, that conversations continue to move forward along these lines. In fact, there are some upcoming ACDA and ATS updates on singing during the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we'll know probably within a week or so what they're recommending at this point. But from what other studies have shown, particularly I reference again the Freiburg University study, that the maintenance of social distancing of at least 6 feet, plus the use of masks, definitely does reduce the possibility of catching this COVID-19.
Okay. There's a question about Wayne State Honors Band Day. Is the event going to be canceled, and when will we know for sure? And if it is there an alternate event that will be scheduled to maintain recruitment?
Mm-hmm. The event will be canceled because there's no way we can accommodate the numbers that attended last year or in previous years, for sure. But as far as replacing it with something else, that's a conversation that I hope to have with our teachers in the area of music education, as well as the director of our bands, Professor Bianchi.
If a student decides that a lack of in-person instruction is a cause for taking a semester off, will they be able to keep their scholarship?
That has to be dealt with on an individual basis, and it's a discussion I think the person has to have with the department chair.
Okay. Will students be required to stay past their previously planned graduation dates to take classes that can't be done online?
That's again on an individual basis.
Okay.
Professor Seeger has something to say about this.
Yes, I think there will be opportunities to accommodate students if they go beyond their individual dates, but we'll have to look at that as an individual basis.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a music tech question. What resources will I need to start out in the fall, like laptop, etc.?
For you should have an access to computer. Does not matter whether it's a Mac or PC. As long as you have an access to the computer, you can access to the music department's lab computer using Splashtop. Other than that, you're not gonna require to buy anything else. But well, let me know again individually if you do not have an access to a computer. We'll find a way. And you will, but minimum requirement for now I can think of is have some kind of access to either any kind of computer at this point.
So the university has also arranged for computers to be loaned to students and has a system where computers can be checked out through the Dean of Students office. So if you do not have a laptop or do not have an access to a computer, let us know and we can put you in touch with the Dean of Students office.
Okay. I believe that's it. A lot of students were asking the same questions about instructional methods and things like that. So definitely, if I miss anything, please type it in the chat. Leah is going to read the questions from the chat, I believe.
Sure. And again, I think a couple of these have been answered along the way. The first one was, will we have access to practice rooms in the fall? And Paul did answer that, saying absolutely. If you had access to them before, you're going to have access to them again. So that answers that. The next question was, how will group piano classes be held, or what will those look like?
There may be an opportunity to have online. There definitely will be an opportunity to have online piano classes, but also an opportunity to have face-to-face. A lot of it has to do with the capacity. For example, currently, we can accommodate 16 students in our piano labs. With social distancing, we're looking at perhaps 5. Again, that's one of those questions which we'll have to wait to answer, at least until Monday. That's going to be a question I'll be asked of Ashley Flintrop and the team from FPNM as they go through our spaces tomorrow.
Great.
But to answer the question, there will be online and there will be face-to-face. Students will have a choice.
Okay. Regarding ensembles, has a new choir director been selected?
Yes. Next question. No.
Oh.
No, it's Dr. Brandon Waddles is the new choir director.
Yes.
And where's that information posted, Mrs. Celebi? Is it on our website?
Yes, I was actually going to say that if you look at our website, there's a news item about our new choir director, as well as a big Facebook announcement. So definitely you can check out either one of those, our Facebook page or our homepage on our website for information on
Thank you.
Brandon Waddles. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be a full detail list of the plan for each class? I'm thinking, is it hybrid, online? Is there going to be like a detailed plan that students can have access to?
I guess the question is whether or not is this question beyond the schedule of classes as far as the list of the instructional designs, or they're talking about what goes on in the particular classes?
I think probably dealing more with, whether each class itself will be online, hybrid, in person for any class offered.
Yes, that information will be made available rather quickly. I suspect the registrar will have information posted within a week. Okay. And definitely that information will be available through DeAnna Johnson's office, Mrs. Johnson's office.
Perfect. Will there be a concerto competition?
Dr. Anderson. No, that's not Anderson. That's
concerto. That would be
concerto. That's Marcoux. I don't know. You have to ask Professor Marcoux.
Okay. What will the string techniques and pedagogy class look like? I think I can answer that one.
Okay.
Because I am the teacher of record for that class for this fall. And currently I've spoken to Dr. Duncan about teaching that class as hybrid. So a mix of online and in person. As a strings person myself, I think some of that, a lot of that class needs to be in person. But there are some things that we can do online, especially when it comes to the part of the course where you're teaching other people. That can be flexible. So that will probably be more of a hybrid course. My plan for that. Next question is, will personal protective equipment be made available to students, especially individuals that may do on-site student teaching, like masks, hand sanitizer, and the like?
So I will try to provide some information about that. There will be a requirement for people to wear masks when they are on campus. The university is now looking at acquiring masks for faculty, staff, and I believe for students as well. And there will be hand sanitizer available throughout campus. And there will be a number of other procedures put in place to clean surfaces and make sure that surfaces are appropriate for use.
Can I jump in and just also address that? If you are planning to do any work in the schools in the fall, as a student teacher, pre-student teacher, each school will have their own requirements for personal safety. And I can't answer what those will be, whether they will provide things for you, what the requirements will be, but we will certainly let you know what they are before you start in August.
Thank you.
Perfect. That is actually the last question in the chat, unless anyone wants to quickly get one in before we start the wrap up. But it looks like that was the last one.
Well, any final words from the Dean?
Well, I just want to thank everybody again for taking time to chat with us about our plans. As you can see, we've worked through a lot of the details. We are working through many questions still. I just want to emphasize again that the university is committed to ensuring your safety and to ensuring that you have the best educational opportunities possible. This is an amazing department. This is an incredibly committed, hardworking faculty. Dr. Duncan provides exceptional leadership. And so I have great confidence that the fall semester is going to be successful. I also want to emphasize that there are a lot of opportunities to explore new avenues of performance, new avenues of pedagogy because of this pandemic. There are a lot of opportunities to use social media and streaming and other devices, other technologies to really extend the reach of our performances in ways we haven't seen before. So I'm excited about those opportunities. It's obviously quite unfortunate that we're in the midst of a pandemic, but I do think that there are some good things that we may learn about new ways of doing things as a consequence of this. So thank you again for joining us, and thank you again to the faculty and staff.
Thanks to all, and have a wonderful evening.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.